Get your dirty boots off my showroom floor. The salesman shoves the black farmer, sending him stumbling into a glass display case of model jets. James Wilkins steadies himself, dust from his work clothes marking the immaculate white floor of Sterling Aviation. His calloused hands grip the edge of a counter as laughter erupts from the staff. Trevor Barnes, the lead salesman, stands with arms crossed, a smirk spreading across his face. "The farm equipment auction is across town," Trevor announces loudly. "This is where people with real money shop." The room fills with snickers as Trevor grabs James by the elbow, fingers digging into his arm. "Let me escort you somewhere more appropriate for your budget." But the farmer plants his feet firmly, his eyes never leaving Trevor's face. James Wilkins parks his dust-covered pickup truck between a Bentley and a Mercedes in Sterling Aviation's customer lot. The 3-hour drive from his 5,000-acre farm left him tired but determined. He straightens his plain button-up shirt, the fabric worn but clean, and walks toward the gleaming glass building. Inside, the showroom dazzles with polished jets displayed under perfect lighting. Well-dressed salespeople speak softly with clients who look like they've stepped out of luxury magazines. James's weathered face and work clothes create an immediate visual disconnect. Yet his eyes shine with purpose and knowledge as he surveys the aircraft. "This citation would cut my travel time between operations by 60%, he thinks, calculating the efficiency gains for Wilkins Agricultural Enterprises. His excitement builds as he envisions expanding his business reach. Trevor Barnes watches James enter from his prime desk position. His month has been dismal. No sales, no commissions. The pressure from management weighs on him heavily. He immediately categorizes James as a non-prospect, a waste of valuable time. "Someone should call security," Trevor mutters to his assistant Danielle. "That guy clearly wandered in by mistake." "Maybe we should help him?" Danielle suggests, her voice uncertain. Trevor waves dismissively. Let's see how long before he realizes he doesn't belong here. His eyes narrow with judgment based solely on James's appearance and the soil still visible under his fingernails. At the reception desk, Melissa forces a tight smile as James approaches. Her eyes flick toward Trevor, seeking direction. "Welcome to Sterling Aviation," she says, her tone suggesting the opposite of welcome. "How can I assist you today?" "I'm interested in viewing your mid-sized business jets," James replies politely, "particularly the citation models." Melissa glances toward Trevor, who gives a subtle nod, the signal to play along for amusement. She gestures toward Trevor's desk with exaggerated formality. "Mr. Barnes will be happy to assist with our aircraft collection," she announces, her voice carrying across the showroom. "He specializes in our most ambitious clients." James catches the smirks exchanged behind his back, but walks forward with shoulders squared. Trevor deliberately ignores James for 15 minutes, shuffling papers and making unnecessary phone calls. James stands patiently, observing the showroom. He notices another salesperson offering coffee and comfortable seating to a white client who arrived after him. "So, you're interested in our jets?" Trevor finally says, extending a limp handshake. His eyes don't meet James's. "Perhaps you'd like a brochure to take home and dream a little?" His tone drips with condescension. "I need an aircraft for business transportation," James explains calmly. "I have agricultural operations in 3 states and international distribution partners to visit regularly." Trevor's eyebrows rise dramatically. "Agricultural operations? You mean farms?" He emphasizes the word as if it's amusing. "Listen, these aren't crop dusters we're selling here." "I'm aware of that," James replies. "Our smallest jet starts at $8 million. Trevor pronounces each word slowly, watching for signs of shock or retreat in James's face. "I'd like to see the Citation XLS Plus," James says, unperturbed. Trevor laughs, the sound sharp and dismissive. "That's a $12 million aircraft. Perhaps we should start with something more attainable." He pulls out helicopter rental brochures instead of jet information. From his vantage point, Trevor calculates his next move. He's never had a black farmer as a client impossible, he thinks. This man can't possibly afford even the most basic aircraft. Still, management insists on entertaining all visitors for at least 15 minutes before showing them out. Why waste both our time, Trevor thinks, glancing at his watch. I could be helping real clients. James notices a woman in a business suit being guided through the showroom by another salesperson. She's offered refreshments, detailed specifications, and respectful attention. The contrast is stark, but James's expression remains composed. Only his eyes betray his awareness, cataloging every slight. I still want to see the Citation XLS+, James insists, his voice firm but polite. Trevor's professional smile tightens as he realizes this time-waster won't be easily dismissed. Trevor sighs dramatically and rises from his chair. Follow me, then. He walks briskly toward the showroom floor, not bothering to check if James keeps pace. Other salespeople watch with amused interest as Trevor leads James past the Citation XLS+ and toward an older, smaller jet tucked in a corner. This is more along the lines of what you might be looking for, Trevor says, gesturing vaguely at the aircraft, not even the model James requested. This isn't the Citation XLS+, James observes quietly. Trevor ignores the comment. Before we go further, Sterling Aviation has a policy. His tone suggests he's finally found his exit strategy. We require financial pre-qualification for serious inquiries. He emphasizes serious with a slight smirk. That's reasonable, James nods. Our aircraft require a down payment of 20%. Trevor's voice rises slightly, ensuring nearby colleagues can hear. For the Citation XLS+ you're so interested in, that's $2.4 million. Cash. He pronounces the amount with finality, confident it will end this charade. James reaches for his wallet. The motion triggers Trevor's laugh, a sharp bark that cuts through the showroom's hushed atmosphere. Bill, come over here, Trevor calls to a colleague. Our friend thinks he has a Citation down payment in his wallet. Several staff members drift closer, poorly concealing their amusement behind professional masks. Trevor grows bolder with his audience. Sir, perhaps there's a misunderstanding. These aren't rental rates. He speaks slowly, as if to a child. This isn't like financing a tractor or pickup truck. The gathered staff chuckle appreciatively. James stands still, face impassive as the humiliation continues. Trevor places a pre-qualification form on a nearby counter, artificially complex requirements highlighted in yellow. Fill this out so we have a record of your visit. His tone implies it's merely a formality before escorting James out. James takes the form and begins writing. Trevor hovers uncomfortably close, peering over his shoulder. Sir, this is hardly legible, Trevor comments loudly after James writes his name and address. Do you need assistance completing this form? The question hangs in the air, laden with assumptions about James's literacy and education. The showroom has grown quiet, the spectacle drawing attention from everyone present. James continues writing methodically, each answer precise and detailed. His exterior remains calm, but internally resolve hardens like steel. He's experienced discrimination before, but never expected it when prepared to spend millions. He completes the form despite the mockery and extends it to Trevor without comment. As Trevor glances down at the completed form, his smirk freezes in place. I need to use your restroom, James states, his voice level despite the public humiliation he's just endured. Trevor points toward a hallway. Through there. Don't touch anything unnecessary. He chuckles at his own joke while flipping through James's form, expecting to find fabricated information. In the privacy of the elegant bathroom, James stands before the mirror. For a brief moment, his composed expression slips, revealing a flash of hurt in his eyes. He's built a successful enterprise from nothing, yet still faces judgment based solely on his appearance. The hurt quickly transforms into steely determination. He straightens his shoulders and takes out his phone. Sarah, it's James. His voice is quiet but carries unmistakable authority. "Prepare the documents we discussed." "Yes, all of them." He listens briefly. "And call Marcus at the bank. I'll need verification of funds ready within the hour." Another pause. "Also, activate the contingency plan we outlined for Sterling Aviation." He ends the call and takes a deep breath, studying his reflection. "This ends today," he whispers to himself. Meanwhile, Trevor reviews James's form with growing confusion. The contact information seems legitimate. Wilkins Agricultural Enterprises with an address in rural Georgia. He quickly runs an internet search on his phone, finding only basic information about a modest family farm established 3 generations ago. "Probably exaggerating the size of his operation," Trevor mutters, reinforced in his initial assessment. Danielle approaches his desk cautiously. "Maybe we should check his financial background more thoroughly before assuming," she suggests. Trevor scoffs. "Trust me, I can spot a real buyer the second they walk through that door. This guy probably saved his whole life to buy that truck outside." He tosses the form aside. "I've wasted enough time on this already." James returns from the restroom, his face once again a mask of professional calm. "I'd like to see the actual Citation XLS Plus now, please." Trevor sighs dramatically. "Fine. One last look before you head back to your farm." He leads James to the correct aircraft this time, but his presentation consists of bare minimum details delivered rapidly. Twin Pratt & Whitney engines, Thales 100 nautical mile range, typical mid-cabin configuration, Trevor rattles off, deliberately using technical jargon he assumes James won't understand. Comprehensive avionics package with standard instrumentation parameters. James nods thoughtfully. "What's the specific fuel burn rate at cruising altitude compared to the Citation Sovereign?" Trevor hesitates, caught off guard by the knowledgeable question. "It's, significantly more efficient, of course." "And the maintenance interval requirements for the engines?" Trevor fumbles through a vague answer about industry standard protocols, noticeably incorrect to anyone familiar with private aircraft. James notes each inaccuracy without correction, then asks about financing options and warranty details. His questions grow increasingly specific and technical, revealing a depth of aviation knowledge that leaves Trevor increasingly uncomfortable. Trevor's phone rings. The receptionist's number flashes on screen with an urgent message. "Excuse me," Trevor says, stepping away to answer his phone. His brow furrows as he listens to Melissa, the receptionist. "There's a financial verification coming through for your client," she tells him. The caller ID showed First National Investment Bank's Executive Services Division. Trevor's expression shifts subtly as uncertainty creeps in. He returns to James, his demeanor noticeably altered. He clears his throat and gestures to nearby seating. "Mr. Wilkins, perhaps you'd like to sit down while we continue our discussion. Can I offer you coffee?" "I've been standing this long," James replies evenly. "I can continue standing." The quiet dignity in his refusal carries more weight than anger ever could. Trevor attempts damage control, his voice taking on a nervous quality. "Our standard procedures can sometimes seem a bit formal. I hope you didn't perceive any rudeness earlier." James listens silently, neither accepting nor rejecting the half-hearted explanation. His steady gaze makes Trevor increasingly uncomfortable. From Trevor's perspective, panic begins to bubble beneath his professional veneer. The email hasn't arrived yet, but a major bank's executive division doesn't call about clients without reason. Has he misread the situation completely? His sales director would eviscerate him if he's alienated a legitimate buyer. "Let me show you the Citation's interior features," Trevor offers with newfound enthusiasm. The cabin height is 5'8", with executive seating for 9 passengers. His presentation remains condescending despite his efforts. The controls are quite sophisticated, not something you can just pick up like driving a tractor. "I'd like to inspect the aircraft interior alone, please," James requests. Trevor hesitates, reluctant to leave a potential client unattended inside a $12 million aircraft. But something in James's unwavering gaze makes him step back. Of course, take your time. He watches nervously as James boards the aircraft and methodically examines every feature with evident expertise. Through the windows, Trevor spots Robert Kensington, Sterling Aviation's regional director, striding purposefully across the showroom floor. Robert's face bears the distinct expression of a manager who's just received concerning information. Robert pulls Trevor aside, voice hushed but intense. "Who is that client examining our flagship citation? Why wasn't I informed we had someone looking at our premium inventory today?" Trevor straightens his tie nervously. "He's nobody, just a farmer who wandered in off the street," he insists, but his voice lacks conviction. "A farmer?" Robert repeats, his gaze shifting toward the bank notification visible on Trevor's phone screen. James emerges from the aircraft just as Robert approaches with an outstretched hand and a broad smile. "Mr. Wilkins, I'm Robert Kensington, Sterling's regional director." His tone is markedly different from Trevor's professional and attentive. "Welcome to our facility. I hope you're finding everything to your satisfaction." James acknowledges him with a brief nod, but deliberately turns back to Trevor. "I'd like to discuss customization options and delivery timelines." His focus forces Trevor to continue the interaction he's been trying to escape. "Of course," Trevor says, his voice slightly higher than normal. "Standard delivery is 6 to 9 months, but custom interiors can extend that timeline." He stumbles through specifications while Robert watches with growing concern. "What about the advanced avionics package?" James asks. "The Garmin G5000 with touchscreen controllers?" "That's an excellent choice," Trevor replies, though his description of its capabilities is notably flawed. Robert attempts to interject. "If I may, the G5000 system offers synthetic vision technology and—" "Please," James interrupts politely but firmly. "I'd like to hear Trevor's explanation." The request is reasonable, but the tension it creates is palpable. Trevor continues with increasing discomfort, aware that both James and Robert are evaluating his every word. Sweat forms along his hairline as he realizes how thoroughly he's exposed his ignorance of the product he's supposed to be selling. An email notification chimes on Trevor's phone. He checks it discreetly. The subject line reads, "Urgent, client verification, Wilkins." His fingers tremble slightly as he opens the message. The preliminary financial verification flags James Wilkins as a potential high-value client with significant assets and urges immediate professional handling. The message warns that the client has substantial liquidity and advises against standard assumptions regarding agricultural businesses. Trevor's complexion pales visibly as he realizes the magnitude of his misjudgment. He returns to James with an awkward smile plastered across his face. "Mr. Wilkins, sir," he begins, the "sir" sounding forced and unnatural. "Perhaps we should continue this conversation in our private conference room? We offer refreshments and greater comfort for our serious clients." "We've been doing fine right here in front of everyone," James replies calmly. His gaze sweeps the showroom where other staff members have been watching the interaction unfold. "I prefer transparency in my business dealings." Trevor's collar feels suddenly tight as he recognizes the implicit message James wants witnesses to whatever happens next. The power dynamic has shifted dramatically, though James's demeanor hasn't changed at all. The showroom doors swing open as a professionally dressed woman enters, carrying a leather portfolio emblazoned with a bank's gold emblem. The woman strides confidently across the showroom floor. Her tailored suit and purposeful walk draw all eyes in the room. She approaches James directly, offering a respectful nod. "Mr. Wilkins, I have the documentation you requested," she says, handing him the leather portfolio. "I'm Sarah Jenkins, your financial advisor." She doesn't acknowledge Trevor or Robert, her professional attention focused solely on her client. Trevor watches this exchange with mounting alarm. Sarah's arrival has transformed a humiliating spectacle into something entirely different. The same salespeople who laughed earlier now whisper among themselves, their expressions shifting from amusement to concern. James reviews the documents methodically, flipping through pages of financial statements and verification forms. His movements are unhurried, deliberate. Everything seems in order, he confirms finally, looking up at Trevor. I believe you needed verification of funds? He extends a document toward Trevor, who takes it with visibly trembling hands. The paper feels unusually heavy in his grasp. Through Trevor's eyes, we see the bank verification official letterhead, multiple signatures, and most importantly, a liquid asset confirmation for $50 million. The numbers swim before his vision as cold realization washes over him. His throat constricts as the magnitude of his misjudgment becomes painfully clear. Robert steps forward, attempting to salvage the situation. His smile is broad but strained at the edges. Mr. Wilkins, perhaps I should take over from here. We want to ensure you receive our very best service. No. James's interruption is quiet but carries unmistakable authority. Trevor and I started this transaction. Trevor will finish it. His tone leaves no room for argument. We've established a certain understanding. Sarah places a laptop on a nearby counter and pulls up additional documentation. Other customers in the showroom have paused their own negotiations to observe the unfolding scene. Trevor's colleagues watch with a mixture of schadenfreude and professional horror, recognizing a career-defining mistake when they see one. The showroom has fallen eerily quiet. Even the background music seems to have dimmed, as if the building itself is holding its breath. Now, James says, his voice carrying in the silence, let's discuss the actual price of the Citation XLS Plus, not the inflated figure you quoted me earlier. Trevor's face drains of color as James recites the correct market price down to the last dollar. Wilkins Agricultural Enterprises isn't just a farm, Sarah explains, opening her laptop to display a professional presentation. It's one of the largest black-owned agricultural corporations in America. The screen shows aerial images of vast, meticulously managed farmland stretching across 3 states. Modern harvesting equipment moves across fields like ships on a green ocean. Processing facilities and distribution centers appear in a slideshow of corporate efficiency. Mr. Wilkins manages over 50,000 acres and employs hundreds of people, Sarah continues. His organic produce supplies 5 major national chains, and his specialty food line generates annual revenues exceeding $70 million. James stands quietly, watching recognition dawn on the faces around him. His posture remains unchanged, neither diminished by earlier humiliation nor inflated by the revealed truth. Additionally, Sarah adds, turning to a new slide, Mr. Wilkins sits on the board of Transglobal Investment Group, which specializes in transportation infrastructure and has previously purchased aircraft for several corporate clients. Trevor's mind races through flashbacks of his most egregious moments, the dismissive greeting, the public mockery, the deliberate misquotation of prices. Each memory now burns with fresh humiliation, but directed at himself rather than his client. I need the jet to travel between operations efficiently, James explains calmly, and to meet with international distributors interested in our sustainable farming methods. Time is my most valuable commodity. Robert Kensington launches into damage control mode, his words tumbling over each other. Mr. Wilkins, please accept our most sincere apologies for any misunderstanding. Sterling Aviation values all our clients equally, and we'd be honored to offer you our premium service package at no additional cost. James acknowledges him with professional courtesy, but maintains his focus on Trevor, who stands frozen like a deer in headlights. I came here expecting to be treated like any other client looking to spend $12 million, James states. Instead, I was judged by my appearance and occupation. His words carry no anger, only the weight of irrefutable truth. From across the showroom, Danielle discreetly records the interaction on her phone. Her expression reveals both vindication and distress at what she's witnessed throughout the day. James turns to Sarah, who hands him another folder. I've been documenting discriminatory practices in high-end sales environments for a feature in Business Insider, he announces. It's not entirely true, but James watches Trevor's reaction carefully. The salesman's face drains of what little color remained. Sarah opens another folder containing printed emails and testimonials. This appears to be a pattern, not an isolated incident, she says, spreading documents showing similar complaints about Sterling Aviation's locations nationwide. We've collected these through industry contacts and consumer advocacy groups. Robert interjects with increasing desperation, his corporate training failing him in this unprecedented situation. Mr. Wilkins, we'd like to offer a substantial discount on your purchase, 20% off the listed price, plus complimentary upgrades to the interior. James listens impassively before responding. My interest isn't in special treatment now that you know who I am, he says, each word measured and precise. It's in equal treatment regardless of who you think I might be. The distinction lands heavily in the silent showroom. Several customers who had been pretending not to listen now openly watch the confrontation. One couple whispers together, then quietly gathers their things and heads for the exit. I'll still purchase an aircraft today, James announces, his decision sending visible relief through Robert's tense shoulders. Then he adds, but first, there are some conditions we need to discuss. Trevor sways slightly on his feet as he realizes this is no longer about a sale, but about his entire career. Perhaps we should continue this in the conference room, Robert suggests, gesturing toward a glass-walled space at the rear of the showroom. James nods his agreement. That would be appropriate. The four of them, James, Sarah, Robert, and a visibly shaken Trevor, move to the conference room. The glass walls ensure they remain visible to the showroom, though their conversation becomes private. James takes a seat at the head of the table, a position that would normally be occupied by the company representative. My conditions are straightforward, James begins once they're seated. First, a formal investigation into discriminatory practices at Sterling Aviation, conducted by an independent third party. Robert opens his mouth to object, but James continues uninterrupted. Second, mandatory anti-bias training for all staff, developed and led by diversity professionals. He glances meaningfully at Trevor. And third, a public acknowledgement from Mr. Barnes regarding his behavior today. Trevor's face contorts. You can't seriously expect... I'll need to consult with our corporate headquarters, Robert interrupts, pulling out his phone. He steps into a corner of the conference room, his back to the others as he makes the call. Through Robert's perspective, we witness his internal panic. His voice remains professional, but his free hand grips the back of a chair until his knuckles whiten. Yes, sir. A potential discrimination lawsuit, high net worth client, multiple witnesses. He winces at the response from the other end. Yes, sir. They're sending legal immediately. Meanwhile, Danielle approaches Sarah outside the conference room, clutching her phone nervously. I have a recording, she says quietly, of today and other incidents. She glances toward Trevor. He's done this before, many times. Sarah thanks her with a gentle touch on the arm. That's brave of you. Would you be willing to share that with Mr. Wilkins' attorney? Inside the conference room, James receives a call. Put him on speaker, he tells Sarah, who sets up the phone in the center of the table. This is Lawrence Okafor, Mr. Wilkins' attorney, a deep voice announces. I understand there's been an incident at Sterling Aviation today. Robert returns to the table, his complexion ashen. Our corporate team and legal counsel are on their way. They've asked that we pause any further discussion until they arrive. That's acceptable, the attorney responds. However, I should note that Mr. Wilkins has no interest in protracted litigation. His concern is with systemic issues that allowed today's events to occur. We appreciate that, Robert says quickly. That said, the attorney continues, The documented pattern of discrimination could constitute significant legal liability for Sterling Aviation under multiple statutes. The tension in the room thickens. Trevor shifts uncomfortably in his seat, loosening his tie as if it's suddenly too tight. Within 30 minutes, Sterling's corporate representatives arrive. A stern-faced legal director and a diversity officer who appears to have been pulled from another meeting. They review the evidence Sarah presents: Danielle's recording, the collected complaints from other locations, and James's detailed account of his treatment. Their faces grow increasingly grim as they witness Trevor's behavior in the recorded video. They request a private meeting with Robert and Trevor in an adjacent office. Through the glass walls, James watches Trevor gesticulating desperately, his professional demeanor completely abandoned. Robert stands with his head bowed, occasionally nodding. The corporate legal director points repeatedly at Trevor, her expression severe. When they return, Trevor's demeanor has transformed completely, defeated and frightened. He stares at the table, unable to meet James's eyes. The corporate legal director addresses James directly. "Mr. Wilkins, on behalf of Sterling Aviation, I offer our deepest apologies for your experience today." Her tone is sincere. "We've reviewed your conditions, and not only accept them, but would like to propose additional commitments." She presents James with a formal document outlining a comprehensive action plan. The independent investigation he requested, company-wide training programs, a substantial donation to minority business development organizations, and a new mystery shopper program to identify discriminatory behavior. Additionally, she adds, Mr. Barnes has prepared a statement. Trevor looks up, his face a mask of humiliation. "I apologize for my unprofessional and discriminatory behavior," he recites mechanically. "My actions were unacceptable and do not reflect Sterling Aviation's values." James studies him for a moment. "Is that how you truly feel, Mr. Barnes?" Trevor hesitates, then slumps slightly. "I made assumptions based on how you looked. I was wrong." For the first time, genuine contrition flickers across his face. James nods once, accepting the acknowledgement without further comment. The purchase agreement for the Citation XLS Plus is prepared at fair market value. James declines both the special discounts offered earlier and corrects the attempt to overcharge him initially. "I want exactly what any other customer would receive," he specifies. "Nothing more, nothing less." As James signs the papers, Sarah receives a text message. She leans toward James, whispering, "Danielle's video has already begun circulating among Sterling employees nationwide. It's creating quite a stir." James completes the transaction with the same quiet dignity he's maintained throughout the entire ordeal. The contrast between his conduct and Trevor's earlier behavior stands as its own powerful statement. As James prepares to leave, he places a business card on the table. The corporate logo reveals another connection. James serves on the board of the National Association of Minority Business Aviation Customers. Robert audibly gasps as he realizes James could influence aircraft purchases worth hundreds of millions across the industry. 1 week later, Trevor sits alone in a sterile conference room at Sterling Aviation's headquarters. The space feels deliberately intimidating: oversized table, too bright lighting, and uncomfortable chairs. He adjusts his tie repeatedly while waiting. 5 executives file in silently, including the CEO, legal director, and human resources head. Their expressions reveal this isn't merely procedural, it's a tribunal. They arrange folders and laptops with methodical precision. "This disciplinary hearing will address the events at our Atlanta showroom on June 12th, the CEO begins. His tone lacks the warmth typically reserved for valued employees. "We have reviewed all evidence, including video documentation provided by your colleague, Danielle Martinez." The legal director taps her tablet, and Trevor's voice fills the room. "These aren't crop dusters, sir." His recorded laughter sounds harsher than he remembers. "Perhaps we should start with something more attainable." Trevor shifts uncomfortably. "The situation was misinterpreted," he offers weakly. I was simply trying to qualify the client appropriately. The HR director raises an eyebrow. By suggesting he'd wandered into the wrong building? By mocking his occupation in front of other customers? My sales record speaks for itself, Trevor counters defensively. 15 years of top performance. Highest commissions in the company for 8 consecutive quarters. Yes, the CEO agrees coldly. Your sales record prompted us to conduct an internal audit. The legal director slides a folder across the table. This analysis shows a clear pattern of offering preferential terms to certain clients while overcharging others. She pauses deliberately, often along racial lines. From Trevor's perspective, we see his carefully constructed world crumbling. The strategy he's employed for years, cultivating wealthy white clients while dismissing others, is laid bare in clinical charts and data points. His reputation for sales excellence now appears built on discrimination rather than skill. We've received 17 additional reports since the incident went public internally, the HR director adds, from both colleagues and clients who witnessed similar behavior. Trevor stares at the table, unable to formulate a defense as each new accusation lands like a physical blow. His thoughts race frantically. Could he claim he was having a bad day? Blame pressure from management to qualify buyers? Insist it was an isolated incident? The hearing concludes with Trevor's termination, effective immediately. Security escorts him to clear out his desk, his company credentials already deactivated. Former colleagues avoid eye contact as he packs his personal items into a cardboard box. Some actively turn away. Danielle, now wearing a sales associate pin, watches from across the showroom without sympathy. Trevor learns that his final commission from the Wilkins sale, which would have been his largest ever, has been redirected to the company's newly established Diversity Scholarship Fund. His name will be prominently absent from the announcement. Meanwhile, James attends the delivery preparation for his new aircraft at Sterling's hangar facility. The staff treats him with the professional respect he deserved from the beginning. Rebecca Chen, the pilot assigned to his delivery flight, mentions that the story has become a talking point throughout the private aviation industry. Your experience has started important conversations, she tells him as they review the flight plan. A lot of us have seen this behavior for years, but didn't have the platform to address it. As Trevor leaves Sterling for the last time, his phone buzzes with a news alert featuring his own name. 3 months later, James steps off his Citation XLS Plus at Hartsfield-Jackson International Airport. The aircraft's polished exterior gleams in the Georgia sunshine, its tail number custom selected to honor his grandfather's birth year. He's returning from meetings with European distributors who have committed to substantial contracts for his organic produce line. In the terminal, he notices a trade magazine on a newsstand. Aviation Today features his story prominently. The headline reads, "How One Customer Changed an Industry's Approach to Inclusion." The journalist who wrote the piece, Catherine Winters, approaches him for follow-up comments. Your experience has prompted several luxury retailers and high-end service providers to review their sales practices, she explains, recording device in hand. Would you say that was your intention? James considers the question carefully. My intention was to purchase an aircraft, he responds with characteristic directness. The ripple effects weren't planned, but they were perhaps necessary. Sterling Aviation has implemented comprehensive bias training for all customer-facing employees. Their mystery shopper program now includes diverse evaluators who assess staff behavior toward different demographic groups. Robert Kensington was reassigned to a smaller regional office, not fired, but clearly demoted. The new CEO of Sterling, Gabriela Santos, reaches out to James regularly, seeking his input on their diversity initiatives. He consistently declines the consultant role but recommends qualified professionals instead, including Dr. Ayanna Johnson, a respected expert in corporate inclusion strategies. This wasn't about me, James explains to the journalist. I had the resources to command respect eventually. Many don't, and their experiences go unchallenged and unchanged. The Business Insider article, which James actually did help develop after the incident, creates further industry waves. Titled, "The High Cost of Bias, How Discrimination Impacts Luxury Markets," it details how unconscious bias costs companies millions in lost sales and damaged reputations. The piece features anonymous accounts from wealthy individuals of color who routinely face similar treatment. Several industry groups developed new training protocols in response, acknowledging that outdated assumptions about who constitutes a qualified buyer harm both customers and businesses. The National Business Aviation Association adds a diversity component to their certification program for sales professionals. Trevor, meanwhile, struggles to rebuild his career. 3 aviation companies reject his applications after simple internet searches reveal his history. His attempt to position himself as the victim in a retaliatory blog post backfires spectacularly when Danielle and other former colleagues publicly challenge his account with additional evidence of past misconduct. Unable to secure similar employment, Trevor files for bankruptcy protection after 6 months of unemployment deplete his savings. The lavish lifestyle he once flaunted, funded by commissions earned through preferential treatment, collapses like a house of cards. At an industry conference in Dallas, James is approached by the CEO of Sterling's largest competitor with an unexpected proposition. 1 year later, James's Citation XLS Plus touches down smoothly at the same airport where Sterling Aviation's showroom is located. The aircraft's interior, practical rather than ostentatious, reflects its owner's priorities, comfort balanced with functionality. He's returning from a successful presentation at an agricultural technology conference in Europe, where his innovative, sustainable farming methods earned international recognition. The competitor who approached James at the Dallas conference, Maxwell Aviation, has implemented an industry-leading inclusivity program with his guidance. Their sales staff now includes professionals from diverse backgrounds, and their training emphasizes treating every potential client with equal respect, regardless of appearance or background. "Our sales have increased 18% since implementing your suggestions," Maxwell's CEO informed James in their last quarterly update. "And customer satisfaction scores are at an all-time high across all demographics." James drives his pickup truck, still practical, still occasionally dust-covered, to his original farm property. The modest homestead stands in stark contrast to the corporate headquarters he's built 10 miles away. Here, among the fields his grandfather once worked as a sharecropper, James finds his center. His hands still show the calluses of actual field work, which he continues to do regularly. Success hasn't changed his essential character or work ethic. He believes in maintaining connection to the core of his business, the soil and the crops that built his empire. Beside him walks Jamal Washington, a young black agricultural student intern who accompanies him as part of a mentorship program James established after the Sterling incident. The program pairs promising students with successful agricultural entrepreneurs, creating pathways into an industry where minority ownership remains disproportionately low. As they walk the fields, examining this season's crops, James shares the story of the jet purchase as a teaching moment. "Success doesn't insulate you from prejudice," he tells Jamal, brushing soil between his fingers to check its quality. "But it does give you the platform to address it. The question is how you use that platform." At the airport later that week, James notices Sterling Aviation's showroom has been renamed and rebranded following their acquisition by another company. The discrimination scandal had affected their business more profoundly than anyone anticipated, creating an opening for competitors who embraced inclusive practices. The new management has reached out to James about featuring his story in their training materials, not as an example of what went wrong, but as a case study in the business value of treating all clients with dignity. In the final scene, James boards his jet with his team of diverse professionals. His chief operations officer, financial director, and agricultural scientists represent a range of backgrounds and experiences. The pilot, A young woman of color hired through a program developed after the Sterling incident welcomes him aboard with professional respect. As the jet takes off, James gazes at the landscape below, a patchwork of farms and developments spreading to the horizon. He reflects on how a moment of humiliation transformed into an opportunity for meaningful change, not just for him, but for an entire industry. James's story continues to inspire others facing similar discrimination. His quiet dignity becomes a case study in effective responses to bias, proving that success is the most powerful statement. If you've been moved by James's story of dignity in the face of discrimination, hit that like button right now. This is PAP Stories, bringing you stories that matter. Don't miss our next video exposing how systemic barriers are being broken down in unexpected places. Subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell so you never miss a moment of Black excellence and empowerment. Share your own experiences in the comments below. Your story matters too. Together, we're building a legacy of strength, dignity, and success. PAP Stories. Our history, our future, our power.